The name of today's talk, The Safety of Soya, basically asks the main question, is soya safe to eat or should we be worried? I think you must have all heard some alarming information about soya, and that you might be a little bit confused whether it's okay to eat it or whether you should just steer away from it. So we'll address all these issues in the talk. So just to summarize, what are the basic health benefits and supposed risks of soya consumption? First, to list the benefits. Soya is a good source of nutrients. It protects against heart disease and certain types of cancer, and it may reduce the risk of osteoporosis and menopausal symptoms, and it can even boost brain power. Now, the supposed risks are that it may alter sexual development and or reproductive ability. As I said, we'll address all these, but we need to take them one by one. Just to mention briefly the history of soya consumption. The first notes or first evidence of soya consumption come from the 11th century BC, and they're from the eastern part of northern China. Then we know that soya was consumed, or that at least has been consumed since the 15th or 16th century across Asia. Then from the 18th century in the USA, and obviously has become very popular from the 70s on with vegetarians and vegans. To explain the main nutritional benefits and what soya does and does not contain. So it contains protein. It contains all 8 essential amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein, and soya contains all 8 that the human body needs. It also contains polyunsaturated fatty acids. They're omega-3 and omega-6 fats or fatty acids that we just keep being told to eat all the time. So it does contain that. It's got a lot of antioxidants, B vitamins, iron. Fortified soy products are also rich in calcium. And last of all, it contains fiber, which again is a very healthy thing. What it does not contain, it doesn't contain any cholesterol or animal protein. I'm mentioning it as it's a good thing because animal protein, and especially casein, which is a milk protein, often causes food allergies. It doesn't contain any animal hormones and any growth factors, which is very important for many types of cancer. Now we mentioned animal hormones, but what soya does contain are phytoestrogens, which is also the main substance that causes the controversy, because phytoestrogens, or plant hormones, they are found not just in soya, but in fruits, vegetables, dried beans, peas, and whole grain. And the type found in soya, they're called isoflavones, and they're a type of phytoestrogen which is always bound to protein. So say if you eat soya protein, isoflavones come automatically with it. And each gram of soy protein provides between 3 and 4 milligrams of isoflavones. They're not equivalent of animal hormones because phytoestrogens in general are 100 to 100,000 times weaker than estrogens, and the type isoflavones found in soya are on the scale of 100,000 times weaker than animal hormones, which means it's the effect is very, very minor. Just to explain how it works, this is the blue circle is a cell, and every cell's got receptors for specific hormones. So the yellow arrow, this one, that's the receptor, and that's where both estrogen and phytoestrogen can bind. Now what happens is that when phytoestrogens are present in the diet, the effect of estrogen hormones gets a little bit suppressed because the phytoestrogens bind to some of these receptors and therefore block the proper estrogen, which is good when your body has too much hormones, too much estrogen. So it's basically balancing your hormonal levels. And on the other hand, when your body does not have enough estrogens, when the phytoestrogens get in, they simulate to a certain extent the effect of estrogens. So that's why it's said that phytoestrogens actually balance your hormonal status. So if you have too much, if your hormone levels are too high, it helps to keep them a little bit lower. And if they're too low, then it helps to basically get the level slightly higher. Now, what are the main concerns about isoflavones or phytoestrogens? One of the main worries or main things that are talked about, that they can affect sexual development or reproductive functions. And it's really important to stress that these concerns are actually based on animal experiments that are flawed on many levels, but the main three levels are that isoflavones have behave differently in different species. And also because the animal experiments are based on the isoflavones being injected to the animals, so it's not a natural way of getting that substance in your body, because when you eat anything, not just soya, everything goes through your intestinal barrier, which acts, you can imagine it like a filter. So certain things do get through, some things don't, and some things get metabolized on the way. So it's injecting phytoestrogens to animals doesn't actually reflect the true picture of what happens in a human body. And also the experimental doses which were used for these experiments were extremely high. So again, it doesn't reflect the reality of what happens in the human body. Soya isoflavones and soya as such have been part of the human diet for centuries and are generally regarded as healthy, and as we can see from population data from over the centuries, they are safe, as I'll explain later. Just to start with, I mention two reviews of human studies. One is from 2003, one is from 2010. And because there's so many scientific papers published on soya every year, there's about 2,000 scientific papers published every year on soya. So I had to really carefully pick just some papers, not to overload you with lots of scientific data and boring information. So these reviews are like analysis of dozens and dozens of other studies. And both of them came to the conclusion that isoflavones from soya foods are safe. And just to mention some of the other studies, one of them that was focused on soy-based infant formulas says that these formulas continue to be a safe, nutritional, complete feeding option for most infants. Most infants, that means because some people and obviously some babies are allergic to soya, so that's why it's most, not all of them. Another focused on the potential to alter sexual development says no evidence of adverse effects on either sexual development or reproductive health of either males or females. And again, another one on the same topic, the data do not provide evidence for adverse effects on sexual development or reproductive health. Basically the same thing, just same conclusion that a completely different scientific team came to. And the last slide on the possible effects on sexual development, or basically what every man who's ever read anything alarming about soya is afraid of moobs. So a very recent review, again, is very reassuring, saying the data show that isoflavones do not exert feminizing effects on men at intake levels equal to and even considerably higher than are typical for Asian males. That means, based on this piece of research, that means up to 5 or 6 portions of soya per day, which is quite a lot already, because I don't know many people who would eat 5 or 6 portions of soya a day. And again, this review found that even if you do eat that much every day, it's still fine. Okay, let's move to cancer risk. Because the low rates of cancer, especially breast and prostate cancers, which are the hormone-sensitive types of cancer in Asian countries, I've encouraged scientists to investigate the role of soy foods a bit closer. So first of all, breast cancer. Now a very well-known study is the Shanghai Breast Cancer Study, which found that women who consumed the most soya as teenagers had half the risk of breast cancer as adults. And it's increasingly, it's being confirmed more and more these days that consuming soya from very early age actually seems to be more protective than when you just start eating soya as an adult. But, you know, when you start eating soya as an adult, it's still good for you. But if you start as a child, it's even better for the future. And then another study of around 1,000 of Asian American women, 500 of which were breast cancer patients, found that high soya consumers had 47% lower risk of breast cancer. Again, just another analysis of 18 studies came to the conclusion that there's a modest association between a high soy intake and a reduced breast cancer risk. Basically, the conclusions of these studies vary in terms of if they find that the association between lower cancer risk and soya consumption, whether it's slightly lower or whether it helps to protect from breast cancer moderately or mildly or significantly. But basically none of the studies says that soya is harmful, which is very important. As I said, exposure to isoflavones during childhood and or adolescence is protective against breast cancer. And this particular study found that as little as 1 serving of traditional soya food daily can reduce the risk of developing breast cancer later in life by as much as 50%. The traditional soya food term means foods like tofu, tempeh, miso, soy milk, basically everything apart from TVP and the highly processed mock meats, which are still healthier than actual meat, but the traditional soy products are healthier. Right, what are the concerns about breast cancer and soya? It's been suggested that even the small estrogen-like effects of soy foods can be detrimental for women who have either gone through the menopause because their natural hormone levels are lower, or for women who haven't gone through the menopause but their natural hormone levels are dropped for some other reason, or for women who have breast cancer and it's the hormone-sensitive type of breast cancer. Again, there's another reassuring review repeating that the concern that products containing isoflavones might be harmful is based exclusively on results from rodent studies, which means mice and rats basically. And the authors stress that in contrast, the clinical and population data suggest that isoflavones pose no risk to such women. As I probably mentioned earlier, the clinical data, which means data from human-only studies, are supportive of safety of soya, but not benefit. The benefit part is, as I say, is a bit variable. Some studies says it doesn't have that much of a benefit. Some studies say it does have benefit. Again, it's soya is has never been shown to be adversely affecting your risk of breast cancer. And another study which is basically from 3 months ago, concluded that the soya food intake is associated with longer survival and low recurrence among breast cancer patients. That means that women who had breast cancer in past and consumed soya are at low risk of getting cancer again. To reassure you even more about breast cancer, in the largest study to date on the influence of soy food on breast cancer, again this very recent study found that after the diagnosis, if you start eating soy food only after you've been diagnosed with cancer, that is associated with a slightly reduced risk of mortality and significant reduced risk of breast cancer recurrence among both American and Chinese breast cancer survivors. These studies are often comparing Asian and say Western women, because there have been many questions raised about whether it can, whether your background can play some kind of role to how your body responds to soya. So these studies are often comparing the two just to show that we're basically all the same. Now the other hormone-sensitive cancer, which is prostate cancer. It's really interesting to just to look at prostate cancer rates around the world. It's quite obvious that death from prostate cancer increases with an affluent diet. That is a diet rich in dairy, other dairy products, meat and poultry. And death from prostate cancer reduces in countries where a plant-based diet is more common, which is a diet predominantly based on cereals, soybeans, nuts and seeds. And I would just add vegetables and fruits, but this study didn't include those. Very recent study again said that consumption of soy foods is associated with a reduction in prostate cancer in men. So basically neither breast cancer nor prostate cancer is something that you should be worried about in connection with soya consumption. And there are no human studies that show an increased risk of cancer due to soya consumption, but certainly plenty of evidence suggesting that it provides protection. I just wanted to underline the word human studies, because a lot of the studies still being published are based on animal experiments, but we think, or what we're advocating are just human studies, because we need to know what happens in human body, and animal studies are just not useful in this aspect at all. Just to give you a little comparison to estrogen in cow's milk, because the estrogen in cow's milk is essentially the same as our own estrogen. Cow's milk contains about 35 different hormones and 11 growth factors. The growth factors are hormone-like substances that are of a very big concern, particularly for the hormone-sensitive cancers, because in an adult body, if you drink milk and it contains these growth factors or growth hormones, there's nothing else to grow in your body but cancer cells. So basically you're encouraging the cancer cells in your body to grow if you give them these hormones. Even though there are no hormones added to milk or no hormones, say, injected to the cows body produces a lot of basically all these hormones for the cow itself and for the calf. And also because for most of the time that a cow is milked, she's also pregnant, and all the hormones are then secreted into the milk. Maybe it's worth mentioning that hormone levels increase during pregnancy and have been linked to a wide range of illnesses and diseases, and as I mentioned, the hormone-dependent cancers. Right, change of subject. We'll move on to menopausal symptoms because it's another big topic for soya, and whether soya can actually help or whether it's ineffective. It's been shown that Japanese women who consumed the most soy foods had less than half the number of hot flushes compared to the women who consumed no soy foods or only minimum. And another study showed that women supplementing their food by soya flour had 40% less hot flushes. Now, I'm not saying eat soya flour. It was just a type of an experiment because soya flour is high in soy protein. So I think they probably did this. They decided to just focus on soya flour because it's got quite constant components. Anyway, a lot of other studies basically agree that consuming soy foods can substantially reduce the frequency or severity of hot flushes and other menopausal symptoms. Okay. Another health topic, heart health and cholesterol. A lot of people now either know or have heard that consuming soya can help lower your cholesterol levels. A lot of studies have been done on the subject. The studies we mentioned all agree that soya protein does lower cholesterol levels. And for example, the quote in the middle, the inclusion of at least 25 grams soy protein per day as part of diet low in saturated fat can help reduce blood cholesterol. 25 grams of soy protein is basically one and a half serving of either tofu or tempeh. If you just have for example, a stir fry or pasta dish with soy food, that will provide you with about 25 grams of soy protein. Studies done in 2006 and 2011, they agree soya protein reduces cholesterol, and the second study, daily consumption of soya milk, significantly decreases atherogenic plasma cholesterol concentration. That sounds very technical. What it means is that consumption of soy milk reduces the amount of cholesterol, that is the bad type of cholesterol, likely to stick to the walls of your blood vessels. That's what's causing hardening of the arteries, and that's what the main problem is with high cholesterol. So this study showed that consuming soy milk reduces this type of bad cholesterol. Now, why is that? How come that eating soya will help you with a certain type of fat in your body? First of all, it's because of the isoflavone content, because isoflavones bind to the cholesterol receptors in the liver and slightly confuse the body, because they mask the presence of cholesterol, and that forces liver to take up cholesterol from bloodstream and metabolize it, which means break it down and just use it up. So that's one mechanism. Second one is that it's amino acid content. Basically, it's complete protein, or as I said before, the essential amino acids are not only what your body needs, but because when you consume soy foods, this complete protein always comes together with fiber, and fiber is basically what helps to reduce your cholesterol levels as well. And last of all, it's the soy protein peptides. Now, just to illustrate what that means, this is a molecule of a protein. The single beads are amino acids, the building blocks. The whole long molecule is a protein, but the shorter chains, like this, for example, it's not long enough to be called protein, but it's just called peptide. It's just a different name, if you want. And one specific type of this, called lunasin, has been shown to be very effective because it disrupts cholesterol production in the liver, and it's also anti-inflammatory, which is when a substance is anti-inflammatory, it also helps protect you from heart disease. So it helps on many levels. As I said, these factors work together to lower cholesterol and reduce the risk of heart disease and stroke. Okay. Now, I also mentioned that soya can protect your bones and it might be beneficial for your bone health. And again, it turns out to be truth. It's not that soya is like a superfood that can help you with everything, but it always needs to be a part of a healthy diet. So if you eat junk food and then eat a little bit of soya, it won't do the trick. But if you eat a healthy diet and make soya foods part of it, say 40 grams of soya protein a day, in this particular study, increased bone mineral content. Now, why would you want to increase your bone mineral content? Because if you don't have enough mineral content in your bones, they can become fragile. So soya actually helps to maintain the steady bone density. And there are two studies by that same team, but focusing on slightly different topics. Both agree that soya had a significant beneficial effect on bone health, reducing bone loss and stimulating bone formation. And the best results were seen after 6 months, but some improvements could already be seen after less than 3 months. And short-term as well as long-term studies suggest that isoflavones from soy foods, again, positively influence bone formation in postmenopausal women and are generally beneficial for bone health. It mentions in postmenopausal women because it's often connected that a drop in estrogen levels in women after menopause causes higher rates of bone loss. Because there's a change in your body that the body basically needs a certain level of estrogens for the bones to, for the bone formation and for the bone loss to be kept equal. Because you might be asking, what do I mean by bone formation? It's that your bones are continuously being repaired. After we've all grown up, the bones don't grow in length or width, but the old and worn out tissue is being replaced by new tissue. So that's what I mean when I talk about bone formation. It's that kind of repairing activity. Now, cognitive effects I mentioned earlier. that soya may help to boost your brain. And it might sound a bit far-fetched, but there have been studies done on this very topic. This study done at the Neuroscience Center at King's College said that soya may improve memory, mental flexibility and planning. And they, what they did were they put people on high soya diet for 10 weeks. And after the 10 weeks, the people showed significant improvements in memory and mental flexibility. So they could not only memorize things better, but they could also, they were more creative or were better at solving problems. Just to mention two more studies. One of them was a 12-week study, again, of high soya diet, and it showed significant improvements in recall of pictures and in sustained attention task, which means when you have to concentrate on something for a long time. And the last one, 60 milligrams of isoflavones per day. That's what you get from about 20-25 grams of soya protein per day. This intake of soya and soya isoflavones, after 6 weeks, it improved nonverbal memory, mental flexibility and planning ability. And nonverbal memory means remembering or recalling pictures and sequences of images. Soya infant formula. That's something I'm not sure if you've had personal experience or if you've heard anything about soya formulas. At the moment, they're only recommended very rarely, but what we say and what many studies concluded is that basically there's no need to be cautious and careful about recommending soya-based infant formulas for babies. And while we support the World Health Organization's recommendation that babies should be fed only breast milk for their first 6 months of life, and we can also see the history that first reports of soya infant formula come from the beginning of the 20th century. And then later on in the 1920s, soya formula was used to treat infantile eczema. When there were studies done comparing infants being fed after weaning, being fed either soy-based formula or normal cow's milk formula, the weight, length and head circumference of babies was measured, and both groups showed similar growth rates. So that was one study showing that there's no reason for concern about soy-based formulas. Later on, 168 infants again were fed either soy-based formula or a hydrolyzed whey formula. That's like a normal cow's milk formula, but made easier to digest for babies. And again, nutrient intake and growth rates were within reference values, which means all the babies grew normally. And the American Academy of Pediatrics states that there is no evidence that dietary soya isoflavones harm human development, reproduction or endocrine function, which is basically a repetition of what I said at the very beginning, that studies show that there's no reason for concern about sexual development or reproductive functions. And the National Toxicology Program, which is an American organization, stated that the potential of soya-based infant formula to have adverse effects on human development is minimal, because they have a scale rating the potential of the potential to harm from minimal to severe. So minimal is as low as you can get, basically. Now, if you're interested in soya-based infant formulas that are strictly vegan, there's no purely vegan infant formula on the market. The only two currently being sold contain D3 vitamin that comes from animals. However, they're mostly vegan, so it's as close to plant-based infant formulas as you can get at the moment. Just to summarize this topic, the soy-based infant formulas continue to provide a safe feeding option for infants. They meet all nutritional requirements of the baby, and they have none of the detrimental effects associated with cow's milk formulas. The detrimental effects are that cow's milk is the most common allergen. So a lot of these detrimental effects mean allergies, intolerances, eczema or rashes, and in some genetically susceptible babies, they can even be contributing to the risk of type 1 diabetes. If you'd like to know more about the topic, we have a special fact sheet, soy-based infant formula, and a report, White Lies, that's basically covering all the topics I mentioned, or all the concerns about milk consumption. Soya and thyroid function. It's another potential reason to be worried about consuming or staying away from soya. And the main concern focus is on goitrogens, which are substances in soya that can interfere with the uptake of iodine. But it's not a problem if you have enough iodine in your diet. If your diet is varied and you eat healthy foods, that should not be a problem. The second focus of concerns was, or maybe still is for some people, isoflavones, because it was mentioned that they may lower levels of thyroid hormones. Again, just to reassure you, neither soy protein nor isoflavones adversely affect thyroid function, is the conclusion of a review from 2006. If you want to know more on thyroid, we have a special fact sheet on the topic, which is called Talking Thyroid Facts. It's available on our website, vegetarian.org.uk, to download. And I mentioned allergies before. It's worth noticing that 6% under 3 are affected by a food allergy, and it's usually cow's milk or eggs. And 4% of adults are affected by various types of food allergies, and the main allergens tend to be shellfish and nuts, interestingly. However, if you just look at the whole picture, 90% of food allergies are caused by quite a small group of foods. Main allergen is cow's milk and dairy products, then eggs, peanuts, tree nuts, fish, shellfish, wheat and soya as well. The symptoms include rashes, diarrhea, vomiting, stomach cramps and breathing difficulties. But it's not very common that people are allergic to soya. However, genetically modified soya can be more likely to cause an allergic reaction than non-GM soya. So if you want to be sure, just look out for either non-GM or organic soya. We're slowly getting to the end. So maybe it's worth mentioning soya and the environment, because even though this talk is focused on health and nutrition, people very often say that soya production is responsible for deforestation and for destruction of the environment. But not everyone also tells you that 80% of the world's soya is fed to livestock. So what we eat, what humans eat, and all the soya products you can get, they're only a fraction of what's produced in general. And if we all ate soya products, and if we didn't feed soya to the animals, 80%, or maybe a bit less, but still the majority of the current problems with soya and deforestation and the environment just wouldn't exist, because we wouldn't need to feed the soya to the animals than we then eat ourselves. So what types of soya products do we have? The traditional soya foods are prepared by either fermentation or precipitation. These are foods like soya sauce, tamari, miso. Not sure if you've heard of them. They're mostly condiments, or they're used as ingredients in meals. But you probably know tempeh, tofu, and soy milk, all of which are on the healthier side, unlike the modern soy foods, which are basically just soya protein isolates or extracts, like TVP or other mock meat products, which are very processed foods. They're still healthier than meat and other animal sources of protein, but if you can, it's definitely healthier to eat the traditional foods. And as I mentioned before, the key to good health is to eat a wide range of foods, not to narrow it down too much. I also mentioned that you can eat up to 5 or 6 portions of soy food per day. As one of the reviews said, that it was still perfectly safe, but it's best just to eat a healthy, varied diet containing whole grains, pulses, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. If you want to know more, and if you want to read or know where all these research papers and studies are coming from, we have a special guide called the Soya Story. We also have a fact sheet, The Safety of Soya. And we also have a special website, safetyofsoya.com. And if you want to email me or ask me any questions later, if you leave here today and think, oh, I forgot to ask this, just email me at veronika@vegetarian.org.uk. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.